Okay. I got signed in. We are recording and streaming to the private YouTube for the people who missed it. Starting an hour late, if you're watching this later on YouTube, the first hour you missed me reading the chapter from the book called Transcendence, which starts on page 373. So if you missed class and you're tuning in later, the first 40 minutes or so was me reading this Dharma talk on page 373. Sorry, we didn't get that recorded. I had signing in difficulties. And then we meditated for 20 minutes. So welcome. And let's open to some, let's start with discussion of that Dharma talk, that chapter on transcendence. And he goes a lot of different places in there. And, you know, kind of comes back around over and over to this core Ajahn Chah perspective, Buddhist perspective, which is let go. Let go. Don't suffer. Let go. Let go of your identification with your body. Let go of your identification with your mind. Let go of your, let go. And so open to discussion. Now, I'm not exactly sure how to do this. I guess because I got people in the room and people at home, I'd like you guys to be able to see each other as a community. I almost feel like I should maybe turn the...
Maybe we should put our, if we have cell phones, we should put our cell phones.
Oh, wait.
We could have logged into the Zoom.
No, wait. Give me a moment. I might have a solution. Let me see. Let's see if this works.
But then we might have feedback.
Because we're animals.
I might have a solution. Linda Lee, would you grab me the phone stand that's in there? Yeah. Oh, and I'm sorry. And the the cord, the like USB FireWire cord that's in there. Let's see if this works. This is also our practice. Technical difficulties practice. On the fly. Yeah, either one of those. The short one's fine. This short one. Thank you. You can leave those out here though. You don't have to. Thank you. Appreciate it. You're an amazing assistant. Okay. Let's see. Let me try this. And maybe not. Okay, never mind. It's not happening. Should be, but it's not. Okay. So I guess what we'll have to do is I'll just have to repeat so that you guys hear. I think you'll be able to hear what is being said here. I'm not sure if they'll be able to hear you. So Judy has a comment or a question. Go ahead.
I struggle a lot with like the emphasis on focusing on the body and then the instruction to let go, and that, you know, the body isn't self, and so the two things are confusing to me. That in general, the meditation, like, concentrate on the body and anchoring in the body, and yet, you know, the body is no self, and what he was talking about there. And then I have a comment that when you and I were talking about happiness the other day, him talking about, you know, happiness and suffering being the same, and happiness being so fleeting that when it leaves, you're suffering.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about that the other day, and I thought, well, we were talking about whether the translation of the word happiness, because he also talks about, you know, reaching a point in meditation where there's sort of upflowing of, I can't think of the word he was using, it wasn't rapture, it was not euphoria either, but that maybe what it's happiness that isn't externally motivated at all, that it's entirely internal happiness that he was talking, because he talks about that, like reaching that goal in meditation, but not clinging to it over to the side. That makes sense. But anyway, my confusion about the anchoring in the body and yet letting go and sense of self, I'm a little confused about that.
Could you hear at home what she's saying, or do I should repeat it? Yeah? See, some of you could hear it. Not everybody. Alan can't quite hear it. Most people said yes. I'll paraphrase what she was saying. I'll reframe it so it's easier for me to respond to it. Some confusion about why are we asked to put so much attention on our bodies, anchoring, mindfulness, first foundation, return to the body, investigate the body, all of the body meditation instructions. And she's saying that that seems confusing in some way. If we're supposed to come to the realization that we're not this body, why are we paying so much attention to it? And I feel like there's, you know, a couple places in there where, you know, Ajahn Chah is saying, yeah, don't be so obsessed with your body. But then the meditation instruction is like, be obsessed with your body. I get where the question is coming from on some level, that first part of the question. My sense and experience with it is the more we pay attention to our bodies, the more I've paid attention to my body, the more I see the impermanent nature of everything that's happening here. So it's not just this sort of intellectual, I'm not this body, but it's a really embodied kind of direct experience of, oh, this body is just does whatever it wants and is just constantly changing. And there's no place in this body that we can find a fixed self, especially not a unchanging self. And so that, you know, the body teaches us the impermanence, teaches us the impersonal nature of itself. And so we have this wake-up call through paying close attention to the body, that the body is just, you know, these sense doors and these sensations, and that it's just a body. And that if we don't do a lot of mindfulness of the body with the body, I think it's much easier to walk around in the delusion that this is who I am. But the more we pay attention to it, turn towards it, the more we see, this is what I'm wearing. This is what consciousness is knowing. This is what's being experienced, but it's definitely not in my control. There's definitely not a self, you know, owner kind of doer in it. You know, we have some influence over, you know, what we eat and how much we exercise and, you know, how much water we drink, and all that stuff affects how this form feels. But ultimately, and, you know, you and I have talked quite a bit about aging. And happy birthday. You made it. You made it. It's Judy's birthday today. And you suffer a little bit about it.
I do.
Because you think you're your body.
I would prefer not to have the 65-year-old body. I'd prefer to have the, 35-year-old one.
And I mean, this is so perfect, right? Without any judgment, but just kind of turning towards it and being like, oh, I'm suffering because of my clinging and craving for a more pleasant, vibrant, younger, whatever it was when I was 20 or 30. And now 65, watching the decline of energy and function or whatever starts to happen as we age. Which is the natural process. And, in that talk, Ajahn Chah is saying, like, what do we really know? You're born, you grow, you die. Like, this is the natural, this is the Dhamma, nature. And we suffer or don't suffer depending on how personal we take it. And part of that, I don't know how this, where it landed for you in the Dhamma talk, but that image of the rice, and the dog sleeping on the rice, and the wisdom is right here, thinly veiled underneath this sense of I am. And then you just have to go, right? That's the, what was he calling it? The appearance. The appearance is I am this mind, I am this body, right? That appears to be, I appear to be this. This is myself. And then, but you just go a little bit deeper, and you just take that was the husk, the husk of self off, the husk of I am off, and you get to the transcendent, which is that there's just an experience unfolding here through this body, and that experience of the way he puts it, of be the one who knows I am in this body that is aging. I am receiving this consciousness, these perceptions, these sensations, these, and I'm not, just that deeper, sets us free. And then we're still in an aging body that gets injured and sick and dies, and all of the reality of our humanness. So anyways, the body being the gateway to awakening, to, what was it called? The process of not shucking the rice, hulling it, not hulling it. He uses a term there.
Threshing.
What is it, Ryan? Say it again. You're muted, so I can hear you.
Threshing.
Threshing. Meditation is our threshing, right? We turn towards and we thresh through that surface appearance level and start to understand there's much more going on here. And ultimately, I love the practicality of ultimately, just don't cling. Let go. And the more you practice, the more you're able to, in the moment, let go. There was a phrase there that I don't love so much, the way he put it towards the end, where he said, and then you just force your mind to let go. Something like that. You do it in the present. Right now, you see the arising of clinging, and you force your mind to let go. I don't love the kind of forceful language. I tend towards the more kind of, gentle approach than the force your mind to let go. But I know what the dude is saying. Because when you see, oh, I'm harming myself with this wrong view. I am suffering due to this wrong view. I got to try to let it go. And sometimes it's not so easy to let go a lifetime of identification with the body as self, or the mind emotions as self.
It's interesting to me that it's so easy for me to see how our mind is not us. Like you were saying last week on Monday, that the minute you sit, I think that's when you were saying, the minute you sit down to learn how to meditate,
Yeah.
that you right away, you are not your mind, because you're saying, concentrate on your breath, and your mind's going, yeah, but what about this and that and blah, blah, blah. So like within 3 minutes of trying to meditate, your mind just goes off and chatters and does whatever it wants to do.
Right.
And it's not you.
Right.
And so it's interesting to me that I have so much difficulty in terms of like the physicality part, but not the mental part.
But isn't it kind of the same thing? I guess
that's what's so weird. It is the same thing.
Well, I don't know. We often come to meditation with the delusion that we're going to stop our minds. We rarely come to meditation with the delusion that we're going to stop aging. But if you did,
Good point.
but if you did, right, if you like just sat down and meditated and you told your body, stop aging, like you tell your mind, stop thinking, then pretty quickly you would kind of have this experience of like, oh, I'm not in control of this fucking thing. It's going to keep aging without my permission. Like we know that, but maybe that because we have this idea that meditation is going to be having a peaceful mind state, and then that's not the reality. Sometimes, if we came, you know, maybe all of the people that, you know, are, you know, chasing youth and are, you know, drinking our green juice and taking our vitamins and all of that stuff, thinking I'm not going to age. I'm, you know, this very Venice, I'm going to stay young and sexy forever. Maybe when they start meditating, they kind of start to realize, oh shit, I can't. It's not what's happening here. This body is not self. It's not under I have some influence over my mind, over my body, not control. Second part, let me come back to your hand, Adam. Second part of your, it was that, and that, oh, it was then that, the difference between happiness and, you know, that you were pointing out that Ajahn Chah in one part in the book says something about, you know, happiness isn't even the goal. Don't get attached to happiness. And he uses it, like in this one, he uses it a little bit differently. He says in this talk at some point, everyone wants to be happy. Of course, that's what we're doing here. It's why we come to the Dharma, because we want to be happy. But then we misunderstand the Dharma and people just become foolish, stupid idiots. a bunch of foolish, stupid Buddhist meditators that are doing it all wrong. He's so critical in this. And I,
paranoid reading the book.
yeah, right. Like, oh shit, is he talking about us?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that he's we're the idiots? It's interesting to watch your ego around that, right? Or like, do you end up landing in like, yes, we're doing it right. Everybody else is doing it wrong. We're following Ajahn Chah's righteous path. Fuck Spirit Rock, you know? Or do you end up feeling kind of like, oh shit, nope, he was definitely talking about me. I'm definitely doing it wrong. I am developing foolishness. Funny to watch the ego where it lands in this sort of general criticism that this teacher was giving 30 years ago, you know, and the Thai forest tradition is this radical, intentional critique on Theravadan Buddhism where nobody meditates. And they're like, we're the meditators. These people studying don't understand the Dharma. We understand it because we meditate, right? Like it's this very kind of, we're setting ourselves apart from what is sometimes called Bangkok Buddhism. We're the forest monks who are the real meditators. And those guys in Bangkok are just reading books and intellectualizing it and chanting, trying to chant for health. That's some bullshit. Trying to chant away your illnesses, that's some bullshit, you know? I love it. Personally, I love it. My ego decides I'm on the right team, but, you know.
Is there a balance between both of those practices by chance?
Let's come back to it. I think that there, yes, but so, well, let's move on. Adam, what is your?
I was just gonna say about like the physical thing, like you can't stop aging, right? Like you can't stop your mind, right? And at the same time, like, I mean, I feel like I've been healthier at, 38 than I was at 36, and I think the same thing could be said about your mind too, right? You know,
yes.
Like through all this practice, yeah, you're never gonna stop.
That's why I like to say, Adam's making this comment about what I'll say is like, we have a lot of influence. We don't have ultimate control, but we have a lot of influence over how our mind and how our body, like you can exercise and eat well and get pretty healthy, no matter how, but you're not going to stop aging.
Just like you're not gonna stop thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to stop thinking, but you can develop healthy mind habits. For sure. If you guys at home want to jump in, raise your hand on the thing and I'll call on you. Linda Lee, tell me that comment again. You said, can we have?
Can we do both? Can we encompass both? The meditation and the reading and the chanting and, just like that.
Yes, of course. She's asking, can we have both of the practice, the kind of, as well as the studying and the rituals, chanting. Cha in this, the way that I hear it, he's saying like, we have these chants and they are to remind us to wake us up. But that often people are using these chants in order to, are misusing them. So yes, there's a way to appropriately do Buddhist rituals, to know the teachings, and to experience them. And there's a way, like we're always talking, often in the West, we're talking about spiritual bypass. You can use your meditation practice to wake up, or you can use your meditation practice to avoid. And a lot of what, the cultural context of what Ajahn Chah was dealing with, especially 30 and 40 years ago, but to this day in Thailand, is that there's all of this sort of mysticism and mystery around getting blessings from the teachers and getting these sort of healing chants and getting all of this stuff that the Chah was just like, that's not the teaching of the Buddha. We are practicing Buddhism, like this animist, mystical stuff that is happening in Thai Buddhism, where people have the charms and even the blessing cords, that become this sort of like my magic piece of string that I got at the monastery. He's just critical of all of that and just saying that none of that is the Dharma. If the string reminds you to practice the 5 precepts and to be careful with your speech and actions and, sexuality and to avoid intoxicants, wonderful. That's what it's supposed to be, a reminder, but there's no magic in it. If the chants are helping you remember the Dhamma and live the Dhamma, great. But thinking that the chants are going to somehow mystically, magically take away some of your suffering, that's not how it works. So he was just really critical of trying to demystify and say, this is a practice that you have to live. It's not a belief system. It's not magic. You have to do all of this yourself. And you can't chant away your suffering. You have to turn towards it and feel it. So yes, both. It is both. Yes, fuck yes. Study, practice.
Because for me, that kind of like goes to in past talks where you shared like, not fake it till you make it, but just like keep doing it, and eventually, you're gonna get there. And so that's kind of where I was. That was coming from.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For a lot, I always think of this. Yeah, feel free. You want to open that? Feel free, or we can crank the AC if somebody wants to. The study are maps. The 4 Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, all of the teachings, dependent origination, they are maps. Like, here's some terrain. Here's the terrain of the mind. Here's the terrain of the body. Here's the causes of suffering. Here's the way to end suffering. And it's like cartography. It's geography. But studying a map is so much different than taking that map and then going to that place. And so that's what Cha is criticizing. He's like, all of these people are arguing about what it says on the map and are attached to what it says on the map. But fucking go to that place and experience it for yourself. And you'll see that the Buddhist maps are generally correct, but the experience of being there is so much different than looking at the destination and what was written about the destination. So definitely read the books, study the suttas, but go there and experience it directly for yourself. That's my sense. All right, what about you guys at home? The people in the room are engaged. What are your thoughts? You're gonna just watch us chat? You can just watch us chat if you want, but what are your thoughts? I want to give you some. I know this is awkward to have two groups, one in the room and one at home, but nothing? All right, raise your hand if you're if you want to jump in there. Adam, please, and then Judy.
I mean, I don't know, motorcycle buddy told me this, but thought, not built people. You ever heard that term? Like, you know.
The difference between.
Like, you know, yeah, like if you like build your bike and you know the ins and outs, or the guy just buys the cool looking thing, and you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like,
How engaged have you been in the process?
And this, I've just come across that a lot, just all kinds of topics. Like, you know, and I've even been guilty of that myself. I read this book and watched this documentary, so I'm, you know, Mr. Woke White guy or whatever, you know, like, and realize, and yeah, I know it's just something that's come across in my life the last like year or two, is being like, dude, like, this could be read somewhere. As smart about it as you think you are.
For sure, but my sense is like, but we got to start by reading it.
For sure.
We got to start by studying it and getting a intellectual grasp on it to inspire us to try it. But you can't stop there. Judy, let me pause you. There's a couple hands here, and then we'll come back. Rachel, jump in, unmuted.
I just want to say, hell yes. I'm feeling it. I love the way Ajahn Chah challenges. You know, he kind of talks some shit and he challenges, and I love that questioning. It gets me to question, like you were saying, where am I at? Am I thinking this way or am I thinking that way? And I just love the provoking that he does. I really appreciate it. So I just want to say, hell yes, I'm engaging.
Is there any, I don't know, is there any part of it that rubs you a little bit, like kind of calling people stupid? And
I love it. I come
you fine with it?
Deva. Shantideva was all about that. Like, it's like, if you're not stupid, then like, just checking, like, am I deluded? It's so easy. I found in my practice over the years, I mean, I did chanting for years and I was off in outer space. I wasn't engaging. I wasn't, you know, I think it's like a checking. And because I was wondering actually why more Western teachers don't act like that. And I mean, it's like Ajahn Chah, there's that confidence that he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And so I don't mind it at all. It gets me to check myself, and he might be right about me. I don't know. You know me, I love that strict.
Yeah, and it could be seen as a pretty skillful means. I love that one part in the talk where he's saying, you know, everyone here in this hall is deluded, I think he uses, you know, and so I feel like it's easier, and maybe he's saying, maybe it's except for me, maybe I'm the only one that's not deluded, is a little, I feel like it's coming across a little bit like you're all deluded. For me, it always lands a little bit easier if we just kind of say like, oh yeah, we're all deluded, like, and include oneself, include the teacher in the, like, I'm not seeing perfectly clear all of the time. We're all deluded at times. And yeah, just as a wake-up call. And especially I like the way he's sort of breaking through people's spiritual pride and the way that the self clings to views. And, you know, he makes these wonderful points. It's like, even if you're right, if you're clinging to it too much, then you're wrong. Even if you are right and have right view, getting super attached to your right view turns it into wrong view. Which is like kind of a mind fuck, but you get it, that sort of like strong confidence without attachment. You know, that like, this is what I know to be true. And I don't need to argue with anybody about it. I don't need to make everybody else wrong, which is a strange thing where he's sitting there making everybody else wrong. Anyways, thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
Brittany.
No. And maybe this is changing directions a little, maybe not. But I think something that was really, I don't know, maybe I was struggling with towards the end of the book that I had kind of made a note on was, it felt the way he was talking about, let me find the way, like how I want to say this, like praise and blame and right and wrong and good and bad, and everything is just words and it means nothing, and likes and dislikes. And I started feeling a little bit like I can't find my footing in it, you know, and mostly around, you know, he says like clinging to it all causes suffering. And I wrote this down: we don't foolishly cling to things, but we hold them with wisdom, good or bad. We let them go. And then there's another one. It says tranquil dispassion for the world, just being born and passing away. And I just started feeling like, you know, I've been doing this for a long time, right? And I get it. But also what I was struggling with is trying to like pick through that sort of stance and that sort of attitude, but also in, you know, a lot of things that are going on in the world, like how, you know, when it's like right or wrong, it doesn't matter, just like whatever. But how do I take that and also in taking action in the world, right? And what I think is right and wrong, if that makes sense, what I'm trying to say, like, you know, in things like activism or taking action or injustice. So I guess I'm having a hard time holding this just like dispassion for the world, but also doing what I think is right. Or does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, great, thanks.
It makes a lot of sense, but I don't have any answers for you.
Yeah, I know you don't, but that's just, this is my thing right now.
It is. I mean, it's all of our practice right now, and in the Dharma, you know, on the path is the balance and between internal, trying to be as awake and responding as wisely as possibly internally to our own mind and heart and aging bodies, and balancing that with the external, and how do we have a wise and compassionate response to this world of ignorance that we live in, you know, in this world of joy and sorrow and beauty and ignorance, you know, and the kind of social political reality that we are in, and there is a balance. And I don't know how much, I don't know Ajahn Chah's stuff well enough to talk about how much he got engaged in social political issues. I know that one of the things that, I don't know if it happened in his lifetime or after, but because there was such deforestation in Thailand, you know, these were the forest monks, and the forest disappeared. Like Thailand is like 98% of the forests are gone. It's something like that. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but maybe not. Maybe it's not, you know, it's like almost all of the forests that, you know, Thailand had 100 years ago are gone. The jungles, like just, you know, clear cut, you know. And so at one point the monks started going and ordaining old growth trees, putting robes, doing a monk ordination ceremony and putting robes on these trees and saying, these trees are our ancestors. And, you know, the villagers wouldn't come and cut down the trees if they had robes on them. And this was this like very activist, like environmentally activist stance for them, saying like, yeah, we're interested in the internal, but also we're engaged and we want to protect, you know, in this case, you know, the issue around environmentalism. And then of course you're aware, and I am often reminding our Sangha that, the Buddha was very vocal at times about the ignorance of racism and sexism. And he wasn't, although he was saying, hey, here's a way to wake up, here's the path to wake up. Also, all of these biases, all of these judgments, all of these prejudices, all of this racism, pure ignorance, and he was very vocal about that. And no justification for any form of oppression or harm, and so that's also part of our teaching and part of our path and external, how to find the balance between what each. I'm not sure. And personally, and I know like this is my own bias, I always cringe when things are translated as dispassion as the goal. I can totally get my mind around non-attachment, and maybe non-clinging and non-attachment and dispassion are the kind of pointing towards the same thing. But dispassion for me feels like complacency. And I'm not interested in complacency. I'm a passionate person. I feel passionate about the Dharma. I feel passionate about the world. I'm not dispassionate. I don't feel super attached, but I feel passionately engaged with an intention to be non-attached. So, my own sense was like, don't take kind of terms like dispassion and then think that we're being encouraged towards complacency. And compassion, right? Like passionately caring. And I just don't see the Buddha as a dispassionate person. I see him as this person who like spent 40 years walking around barefoot, preaching 9 months a year, and speaking out against war and speaking out against sexism and speaking out against racism. And like, it was a fucking, what a passionate life that guy led in his very peaceful way, but in a radical way. And likewise, like, listen to this talk from Ajahn Chah, not dispassionate, calling people idiots and, just like, the dude is on fire for the Dharma. He's just like, the Dharma is so fucking important. Don't be foolish. Don't squander your time, you idiots. Not dispassionate in the way that I think of dispassion. My sense, they're only referring to this, like, don't cling, don't lust for the world to be different than it is. Care about it, work towards a positive change, be passionate about your own awakening, about service, about engagement, but don't suffer in the process as much as we can. Welcome. Alan, yes, you are next. Yep. Tibby, did you lower your hand intentionally? Yeah, okay. Alan, unmuted, jump in. Oh, no, you're still muted. Let me see, unmute. Maybe unmute yourself.
How's that? I have a comment about Brittany's question and also a question for myself. I don't think it's an either or situation. I don't think it's study or activity or action. I think it's action and let the action be enlightening also. Somehow I think we tend to categorize stuff, and sometimes I think that gets in our way. My question is, there was something that you said after the reading, which I found, I don't think it's probably brand new, but I found it really quite useful. You were saying, you're talking about our bodies and saying this is just what we wear. And that really opened up a lot of stuff for me. But my question, and this is also something I've discussed with you in the past, if our bodies are what we wear, and our thoughts are what we wear, and our our perceptions are what we wear. What are we? What is the thing that's doing the wearing?
Who's wearing who?
No, not who's wearing who. What is that which is doing the wearing?
What do you think?
I don't know. Our last conversation, we kind of came to the idea that it was a process, but when all the accoutrements are gone, when a body has dropped off, when we have died, when we no longer are thinking, when we no longer are perceiving, does the process continue? Are we a process which is everlasting and ongoing, or is that something which also ebbs away? And if it is, not being somebody who buys into reincarnation, if it is something which is ongoing, does it ever achieve another form besides a physical body? If it's something that ebbs away, where does it go when it ebbs away? Is this making sense?
Yeah.
And I will now mute myself.
What did you say?
There's a part in the book where he talks about the person being tested. He says to him, what happens to Buddha after he dies? And the answer was, when all suffering and clutching is gone, what remains is Buddha.
Is awake.
And he was passed. And he said, oh, he passed and got to be a monk.
Right. I don't remember that section. Here's the Buddhist answer, which you probably won't like.
You never know. Don't bet on me.
Don't assume what I will like and don't like. Okay, here's the Buddhist answer. We are karma unfolding. And karma is actions, and our own past actions, and cause and effect has brought us into this experience that we're in now. And our current actions, karmic momentum, this process of purifying negative past, deeds and creating positive current deeds, dictates what happens to this ongoing process when this body that we're wearing ceases to breathe. When this body that we're wearing ceases to breathe, our karmic momentum continues. If we have karma, if we haven't ebbed off, right? So the ebbing off of that process is nirvana. When we're done with our karma, we cease to continue this process of samsaric, cyclical existence. From traditional Theravadan, sutta-based Buddhist understanding, our karmic momentum will take rebirth, and it can take rebirth if we're not free, if we haven't finished our karma, if we're still clinging, if we're still aversive, if we're still, under this delusion that I am this mind and body, self-centeredness, delusions, then the karma will continue. This is the Buddhist answer. And you can be reborn into a human body. That's what we call reincarnation, human or animal. But you could also have your rebirth in an unseen realm, in any of the 6 realms, which are the hell realms. Like if you have quite negative actions in this lifetime, you don't die and get away with it, but you might have to do some time in hell because of your actions. Or if you've had quite positive, but you're not quite done with your karma in this lifetime, you could take a birth in the heaven realms. And there's something like 27 different levels of heaven in the Buddhist cosmology, and only, I think, it's either 5 or 7 realms of hell, which is, just a sort of like mathematically, that's interesting that the cosmology says, there's 5 ways to suffer, but there's 27 ways to enjoy heaven. The suffering, the hell realms are like, you can have the fiery hell or the icy hell. Which one do you choose? And again, the thing about the Buddhist cosmology and this process that's unfolding is that it's not eternal, is that it's a process based on our own karmic actions. And that even if you do get, even if we do create a hell for ourselves, it's a temporary hell. And even if we do create a heaven for ourselves, it's a temporary heaven. And there's no, Buddhism is not an eternalist, forever here or forever there or forever human. There's, it's all based on your own actions. And that cycle continues, this process of being human, our karmic actions continue until we get free from the clinging, the aversion, the confusion that is fueling this existence. Then nirvana. Nirvana is explained as in many different ways, but nirvana is, when there's no more karma, there's no more rebirth. We're off of the wheel of samsara, and the Buddha doesn't really answer what it means. He says it's a realm of no more suffering. He said, but it's neither conscious nor a lack of consciousness. There's neither a self nor a lack of self. He just kind of like negates, it's neither being nor non-being, nirvana. So, it's one of the ways he says, stop trying to conceptualize what it will be like when you're not suffering anymore. He's like, I just assure you that you won't be suffering, and that it will be nice to not be suffering anymore, because in all of the samsaric realms of existence, we are subject to the first noble truth of suffering, even in heaven realms.
But what is this karma? What is karma that has this momentum which carries us forward?
Also not answered. But what do you mean by what is it? Like where does it bind to? What is it?
No, we say that this is our body.
Yeah.
And when this is our mind, these are our thoughts, and so on.
Yep.
When they cease.
Yep.
Karmic momentum carries us to another place.
Yeah.
What is this karma that has momentum?
Right.
What is karma?
What is gravity?
It's a magnetic force.
What if karma is a magnetic force?
It could be. I don't know. I love that idea of it being
a natural
physical, not physical like body physical, but in physics, that it's an energy form that
is not created or destroyed.
Is everywhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't feel like I have a great way to answer that, but one of the ways that I think about it is there's this gravitational pull in this realm, which is, that you're just, you're kind of stuck to this earth on some level, and that our actions are kind of gravitationally, magnetically stuck to us on some level, and that's our karma. What it binds to isn't really, it's what people want to call a soul. It's what people want to call their spirit. The Buddha doesn't use terms like soul or spirit. He uses terms like karma. And he says, well, there is not a self here, but there is a karmic process unfolding here. And there's some way that we're magnetically, gravitationally connected to all of our actions, to the way that we think and the way that we speak and the way that we behave. And, when that becomes wise and compassionate and sees clearly, that it sort of breaks we're free from the confines of this gravity.
Pretty cool. Thank you. Just one last thing. Happy birthday, Judy.
Thank you.
She says thank you. Cool. I like it. Lively, engagement from some of you. I certainly don't have all the answers. Judy has a question. We'll do, let me do this interaction with Judy, and then we'll take a short break. And then I want to do a kind of closure. We've got 1 more hour, so some sort of closure as we come to the end of this 4 months. And I'll tell you about what's coming next. I'm going to do another Thai forest lineage thing starting, I think, in September. So let me interact with Judy, and then we'll take a quick break, please.
Really quick, it was just at the end of one chapter, he said, he was talking about emotions. And he said, when you're really angry, you were born into the hell realm right here and now. And I really liked that concept of like when you are so boiled and angry and feeling bad, that it's not like that's going to happen later. You're in it right now. And I just really appreciated that. It's like, it motivates me to keep practicing things like that.
Yeah.
So I find him intimidating, how severe his concept of the practice is so severe that unless I decided to go live in the woods again by myself, it would be hard to reach his standard, I think.
I hear you. And I also like that perspective. I don't know if everybody could hear, but where she's pointing to at some point, Ajahn Chah brings that perspective of that whole thing I was talking about, the different realms of existence as here and now, not necessarily destinations for karmic, rebirth, but that actually hell realm is a mind state, heaven realm is a mind state. Being fully human is a rare and precious mind state where you have the balance of joy and sorrow, and not too overwhelmed with the suffering and not too attached to the pleasure. And I like that perspective too. I don't know, I'll make one comment about that. My sense is, yes, sometimes he's so, got to really do this, but also it's quite simple. He's really also saying, just don't cling. He's not saying like practice, like this whole Dharma talk was, don't go too far into these renunciations or being too Buddhist about all of this. He's saying, really, it's just don't cling. In the midst of your life in Long Beach, don't cling. In the midst of your life in the Redwoods in Santa Cruz, Betsy, don't cling. Ryan out in Oklahoma, don't cling. Wherever you are, Judy traveling all over the country in your RV, don't cling. Seattle up there and Chomp rioting, don't cling. Like wherever we are, like it's this sort of, you don't have to go off to the monastery. You don't have to go and live in a forest. Jeff, while riding your Harley Davidson, don't cling. Just tight enough to hang on. Just tight enough to hang on. So I don't know. I feel like the Dharma and Ajahn Chah's Dharma is this very, even though he's a monk, I interpret all of it in my non-monk life as this way to be in the world, finding that balance between internal non-clinging and external appropriate response to the inner city or the forest or the highway or wherever we are.
When he talks about like all your activities should be, mindful meditation, and so that when you sit down to meditate, it isn't like you've had this life over here, now you're meditating over here, that instead it's just a continuous flow, that you're meditating, now you're sitting and meditating. And that is my goal in my life that I fail at miserably, but nonetheless my goal. So I got that part, but a lot of what he talks about is pretty intense and I think difficult to obtain in this realm of living.
Yeah. Take a bio break mindfully. Have a cup of tea, 10 minutes. It's almost 3 at 10 past 3. Let's continue. See you in a minute.
Mark. Yeah, good. How are you?
Hey, you're muted, Noah.
Okay, we are back in action. And I was just discussing with the people in the room some of the technical possibilities of how you guys can see them and they can see you. Like, watch this at home, boys and girls. Oh, wait, you're upside down. Are they upside down? Can you see them? Oh, wait, no, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? I think I know how to do this, but I don't really know how to do this.
We could just skip check-ins. That would be great. I don't really need to check in, so I'm good.
Let's just put Julie on camera. Anyway, that's not really working. Never mind. I thought I did. Okay, here's what I would like. I would like everyone to reflect on Ajahn Chah, Thai forest lineage, what you've learned from this book, what you've learned from me and the other Thai forest inspired teachers that you've listened to over the years. And condense it down to a simple takeaway. What is it that about this lineage that inspires you? How has it benefited you? Some kind of simple statement of, you know, like, I'm benefiting in this way, I'm learning this, does that make sense? I know it's difficult because there's big, so you don't try to do it all. Just one thing, one of the things, you know, and you could even preface it that. One of the things that I am taking away from this course, or that I've been inspired by Ajahn Chah's lineage, one of the things that has inspired me. You don't have to tell us everything. So I like each person to say that, and then to make a commitment. Something that that's inspired you, and something that you feel like committing to in your own practice, in your own Buddhist practice. The internal awakening, the external revolution, activism, whatever it is for you. You're going to go ordain some redwoods, and you're going to go riot in the streets. You're going to meditate in public. What are you going to, you know? You're going to streak through Parliament. What are you going to do? Something that you want to commit to about your practice. And that can, you know, in my mind, you know, our practice is both internal and external. Okay, we're not using this anyways, so don't worry about it. Let's start alphabetically online with Alan. What are you taking away? What are you committing to?
Keep practicing. I'm committing to keep practicing.
Beautiful. Thank you. Andrea. Let's keep it moving. Betsy.
takeaway with Ajahn Chah. He's been a teacher for a long time before this book with you guys. And what I love about his teachings is the simplicity with the sternness of keep it simple, do the practice, let it go. And it's so basic, but so fucking hard. And it's just keep doing it, keep doing it. I loved the story where you talked about the monks in Thailand putting robes on trees. And when you just suggested that I go put robes on redwoods, I actually have. Not directly, but I support he's a Thai forest monk. He's an abbot in a monastery in New Zealand, and he has a hermitage up by Vajrapani in Boulder Creek. And I've been supporting him for years up there. I actually just spent the weekend up there. And you know, if there's anything metaphorically that I could possibly do of putting robes around redwood trees, that's it. And I feel very good about supporting that. I will continue to practice. I will continue to practice with diligence. I offer to anybody in the Sangha to please, in any interaction, call me on my shit. If you see a defilement or you see something coming up that's wrong view in me, call me on it in a compassionate way and let's discuss it. I mean, that's the Sangha is the practice. I wouldn't be here without all of you. Maybe that's more words than you wanted, but there it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Brittany.
I think the thing that's stuck with me most throughout this 4 months from the book is patient endurance is the supreme practice. I wrote that one down and I've been coming back to that. And so for me, my commitment to practice is really just steadying my practice, like showing up every day, especially when I don't want to. And learning to listen to my own wisdom more that comes out of this practice so that I do know how to tell the difference in what I kind of brought up earlier, you know, when to take action and when to kind of let things go a little more. So trusting myself more.
Thank you, Brittany. Carrie Brief, you back? Are you gone? You're back.
I'm here. Yeah, sorry, I didn't put my video back on. I really like the simplicity and the straightforwardness that is much appreciated. The fluff is just not there. And it's just kind of straight instruction, which is helpful. The thing that just has, I've thought about over and over and over again in my practice is in the breathing practice where he talked about notice the nose, notice the heart. And I think I talked about that in one of the other get-togethers, teachings, that I hadn't thought about the heart before. It was nose, belly, notice maybe the lungs, but the heart, that instruction really kind of changed things a bit for me. That's been really helpful. And to do the practice and just take it as it is. I talked to you recently, I've had some difficulty sitting, but I've sat anyway, even if I'm fidgeting, whatever's going on, it's okay. And so I've been able to work through that much easier without any negative things towards myself about it. That's where it is now. As far as what I'm going to do, I started a few weeks ago meditating in the park with the group.
I started a group and we meditated yesterday. So every 2 weeks, we're meditating in a city park in public. And that's been really good. It's been helpful for myself and for others. And also to do walking meditation. That is, I'm thinking about him and the Thai forest monks having to walk for alms and all the walking they had to do. And so to do some walking is where I'm going to put some energy in. So thanks.
Thanks, Carrie. Kamosi.
Oh, that was a big jump to Jay, huh?
Last names.
Oh, okay. So I just can't get over how much I enjoyed, at least today, that metaphor analogy about, studying the map versus actually, going on a trip and seeing the places. And all through this book of like, we're reading a book about like, don't read books. And I can see, where me included and, lots of people with all the information that we have so much like, ready access to, of like, there's just a ton, like everybody is just arguing about the map without actually leaving the confines of your home and getting in a car and going somewhere. So, and I love going and exploring on my motorcycle and seeing places and getting lost. I know generally where I'm going, and I love finding new roads. So yeah, I like that. And no, you mentioned something of either in our meeting or a talk or something about like the Buddha was saying that the world is basically is mostly filled with lots of people with fixed views just going around annoying each other or something like that. I enjoyed that. As far as goals go, I think just trying to stick along these lines, like, being careful about where I'm really stuck in my opinions or perceptions, and being careful about fixed views. I'm gonna be 51 in 2 days, and I had a little slack time in my daily meditation, so I'm gonna try to commit to silent sitting every day this year.
Beautiful.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Spring chicken.
Judy Lyle.
Unmute. Hi everyone. Hello Sangha. So I got a lot out of the book. I think I put it all together when I had great conversations with Noah. Really, what I'm going to commit to is more walking practice and a more diligent meditation practice. But what I just recently learned with Noah is that when I'm walking, I'm in beautiful places because I'm traveling, but just to understand that when I'm doing a walk or a hike or whatever, that I could actually see the elements of everything that I'm looking at, which is just beautiful with the places that I'm seeing right now. So that's what I'm going to be doing.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
Linda Lee.
Linda Lee.
Linda
Lee.
You can do it from there.
I don't want to unmute, because if I unmute, I think I will have too much feedback.
Here, come do it up here. I'm going to actually ask everybody to do it up here.
Okay. Hi, everybody.
It's much better to see their.
Right.
Hi, you guys. I don't see you guys, so. Oh,
No, they're gonna
see
see you.
Okay.
Wait.
Forward.
Wait. Judy shouldn't be.
Don't, yeah. Hi, you guys. Okay. What did I learn? A lot. Wisdom, that there's a path to find there's a path of cultivating wisdom. And I wasn't really aware of that prior. I kind of thought, we were more ego in more of an ego way, where it was just, oh, well, I'm wise because of whatever reason I gave myself. But realizing that there is a roadmap to wisdom, and knowing that, or believing that wisdom leads us out of suffering, and really trying to deconstruct all of that to unlearn all the stuff I was taught as a child with Catholicism, and bringing in Buddhist knowledge, Buddhist practice, to help me in the here and now. So I think I really appreciated, and I'm really glad that I exposed myself to this information and to this knowledge, because if I don't expose myself to it, then I don't know it. How else am I going to know it unless I search for it, or if I call it in? I'm calling it in, I'm bringing it in. So that's why I asked, what about the chanting, or what about these different, because I want to be wise in what I'm calling in, and then practicing it, testing it for myself. And then in doing so, that's when you embody, or that's when I embody. That's when I'm meditating and I get these jewels of wisdom that kind of come forth, is the fruit of the meditation. And but knowing that it's like, you don't get there, you don't get the jewels of wisdom unless you do the sitting. And so there's no way, there's no shortcut, there's no pill that I could take, or there's no fix quick. It is logging the hours in the meditation, in yourself, in your heart center. But then also realizing to allow my mind in those places of meditation to kind of just like observe where it's going, because it's in the observation of where my mind is taking me to a past, or, some kind of deconstructing something, where if I just kind of relax and let it go, so much of what I didn't see is then revealed to me. And then it kind of makes a little more sense to me, and I'm able to let go. So I got that, which I'm grateful for. And so what do I commit to? More of the same, because I don't think I'm doing anything. I think I'm doing okay. I think I'm eating as much as I can eat. I'm letting it digest, I'm letting it kind of turn into, whether it be muscle or blood or whatever, but flowing through me. And then that's what's going to fortify me to my future, that karma that I'm creating for myself by the choices that I make in the moment. So thanks. That's where I'm at. Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Or do we just continue with folks in the room?
I really, really liked what I brought up before about the concept that you're bringing meditation into, every moment of your life. There are like things I do in my life. I have a version for, like, I'm a therapist 3 days a week. I'm an artist 4 days a week. I find that I sometimes get real selfish and don't want to see therapy clients. I mean, I see only 4 people for free. So that's what my giving back is that I see a lot of people for free. And then I'll have pushback, like, oh, I'd rather be in the studio, or I don't want to do the dishes. I don't want to walk the dog, just your normal life things you don't want to do. And so when I was reading that about him, having it be this continuum, that you're meditating through your life so that when you sit down, it isn't like, here's one thing and here's the other. I would like to have that continuum. I think that would be really good. Yeah, so basically that's about it for me.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Hi. So the one thing that I took away is to not cling. And what I'm going to actually commit to is reading more books, because I feel like for me coming into this class, like my practice is pretty good, pretty tight, but it was harder for me to open up to like reading and getting wisdom from books. So that's what I'm going to commit to and keep practicing.
So weird.
It's weird. Right? It works. At least it sort of
What's
works.
up, everybody? No, that definitely works. I'd say my overall thing was it just feels like bare bones Buddhism, which I really dig. I like things stripped down to the basics like this, and there's been a couple passages where he talks about I don't know, like not running from your problems almost in a way, and chapter 30 was like, for whatever reason, was my real favorite one. And the story, I think this is like my biggest takeaway, something I've dealt with is, if I move here, I'm going to be happier. If I get a new girlfriend, new job, if I change this, it's just going to be better. And so the story of the jackal is I really dug a lot. So I'll just read that real quick. The Buddha said, "Monks, did you see that jackal this afternoon? Standing, it suffered. Running, it suffered. Sitting, it suffered. Lying down, it suffered. In the underbrush, in the hollow tree, or in the cave, it suffered. It blamed standing for its discomfort. It blamed sitting. It blamed running and lying down. It blamed the tree, the underbrush, and the cave. In fact, the problem was none of those things. The jackal had mange. The problem was the mange. So I just want to get rid of my mange." Thanks, everybody.
It's the mange. The mange is the dukkha. Rachel Savage.
All right, thanks everybody. I love this so much. So, and I love lineage. I love that this feels, studying this book with you feels like it's part of this living lineage. And that's important to me. I get very inspired by that, especially since this is seen to be the lineage of the elders, that it's coming from the original, the closest to the way the Buddha probably actually practiced, although we're doing it as householders. It's so radical and cool. So I'm very inspired. I do though get attached to practice. I get attached to the Sangha. I get attached to practice. I get attached to retreat. I get attached to the teachings actually. And so I can see that my practice is letting go. Like I haven't really, I don't feel like I've really focused on that as much as I have on cultivating and practicing. So that's my commitment, is to do more practice of letting go. And this thing that Ajahn Chah was talking about, of seeing things as not sure, seeing things as not certain, and just being able to practice with that and see the world that way in all of my activities. So we'll see how I do.
Thanks, Rachel. Ryan.
Unmute myself. Okay. I feel like what's amazing about a collection of teachings like this is that I could come back in 6 months or a year and something else will resonate with me. I feel like a lot of what has resonated with me has been consistent throughout the entire book. It's when he says this that I kind of feel convicted and I need to move forward on that. And even rereading the last chapter of the book today, I think this whole book for me and my study in this and what I needed to hear is one sentence in the last chapter. It's practice right here, because right here is where you're stuck. And I feel like before this study, I have been so attached to what I felt like the practice should feel like, or when something arose that I didn't understand, I needed to then veer off and understand before I came back to the practice. And I can see Ajahn Chah in my mind saying, hey, what the fuck are you doing? Just go sit down. It'll work itself out. Don't try to explain everything to yourself, because then you're just going to get off the path. You need to sit. So I think my commitment in my practice is to let the mind be the mind. Let it do what it does, and then just keep going on through it. So I appreciate you.
Thanks, Ryan. Tibby.
Got it. Happy birthday, Judy.
Thank you.
Auspicious day to be with you. Okay, so I see these comments having stopped reading after the first two sections, but I would say in terms of the book and what I got out of it, it's like, what didn't I get out of it? It was like I was highlighting so much in the meditation, so many specific directions or insight in the meditation that it was like, I was like, why am I even highlighting it? The whole book is this, right? So what I got out of it was really the specific instruction, at the same time, how at points he put it all together, how it all works comprehensively in context. And that, and being able to, like when I was talking to Noah yesterday, like I'm scattered right now in my practice, like there's so much to go on and to practice and to do and to be aware of and to show how that all worked. And I just like, I was scrolling through my highlights because of course I was paranoid I wouldn't come up with a good comment, but there's this quote in the second section that's so great. I'm telling you, it's also very different attitude than what we're hearing about, like the judge, don't be stupidity and stuff like that. The voice is so different. I'm telling you, it's great fun to closely observe how the mind works. And if I can remember that and see that at the beginning of every practice, and let that run through my practice, right? It just changes everything. I can do everything in practice and then in my like life practice, how I approach the day, right? When I'm moving through it. And then as far as making a commitment, that's hilarious, Noah, because I love making commitments. But I would say on the personal end, to go back, like I was so rushed trying to read so much of the book when I started it, but just to integrate it in my daily practice again, just read 5 minutes. Because really, I don't want to know more than I don't want to take in more than he's written in 5 minutes. Sometimes it's 1 minute of his stuff, but just starting that before my daily practice. And then also just on the larger way that I think you were talking about in some ways, Noah, like, and it's sort of a reiteration of the intentions that I made in the beginning of the year. One of the intentions, bringing right thought and right action into my workplace and out into the world. And it was like, I was so clear about that at the beginning of the year. And, then opportunities to do that came to me this year. That were just out of the blue. So to bring that right thought and right action back out there is really a luxury, and to be aware and be open to that.
Thanks, Tibby. Ward, you back? I don't think he is.
Hello,
Oh, you're back.
I'm back. I'm
Did you-
driving.
Did you hear the
I've been,
assignment?
I gathered the assignment. I didn't hear you say it, but I understand that we're trying to kind of recap our experience with the book and then make a commitment going forward from our experience during the training.
Indeed.
My experience with practice kind of before a couple years ago was lots of effort and very little wisdom. And I hear in the book him saying so much, don't study so much, practice. And I didn't know that there was that sort of Bangkok versus forest showdown going on in the conversation. That was so. I appreciate that redirection to practice, but also he obviously has done all of the studying already. I mean, he talks about how he would go diligently through all the precepts and all the different kind of practices of the Buddha and try to replicate them and stuff. So it's not like he just is pounding his head against a wall and with effort and no wisdom. So I appreciated like the encouragement to practice that he gives is also totally soaked in his understanding of the basics of all of this stuff. And I also appreciate him not getting into the weeds that much. And I guess like Tibby was saying, to keep it kind of centered on, I think it was Tibby was saying it, to keep it centered on kind of, I don't know, the not getting bogged down in the details. So for me, it's the commitment going forward is to keep up both, to keep up practice and also to try to gather wisdom. I still feel as though I'm on balance in terms of how much of time I've spent kind of sitting and how much time I've spent reading, sort of behind the eight ball in terms of how much I understand about the teachings and being able to integrate them. And so I don't know, I think for me, the commitment is to continue to keep a balance of continue sitting every day and then also continue absorbing wisdom from the books and from listening to teachers like you. And I would also just say, like others have said, I super appreciate this process. I love doing this in community. It is so much richer for me to hear everybody else's take and to feel kind of inspired and pushed towards digging into the book and stuff because everybody else is doing it, and also to be a part of this sort of living lineage that is also super valuable to me. It's I think that's extremely lucky. I think we're extremely lucky to be able to hear the Dharma, and I think we're extremely lucky to be able to hear the Dharma in this way from as close as we can get right now to what the original teachings are. And so thank you for that. Thanks for this whole thing. It's been really great.
Thanks, Ward. Appreciate you. I think we got everybody. I believe we did. So It's over. Let go or celebrate or whatever you do when things are over. Couple of things as we come to the end. Part of it, you know, somewhat jokingly, but somewhat seriously around endings as practice and the core Buddhist understanding that conditions come together and then conditions fall apart. And so, you know, especially it's a little bit easier in a thing like this where, you know, it was a finite 4 months, you know, and so you kind of are prepared for it to end. It's a little bit more challenging when you know, think that things are going to continue and all of a sudden they end suddenly. And then there's the kind of like tendency to bargain and cling and, you know, go through the stages of grief with the ending of things. But so much of Cha's teaching and the Buddha's teaching and is let go. Let go when things end and feel the grief and, you know, and accept it and make room for it and let go. I want to, you know, I want to say thank you for everybody that did it. I thought that this was a cool thing and a little bit of an experiment to do together as a Sangha, as a follow-up to the Year to Live thing that we did, where we had 12 months, and this one saying like, hey, let's do a 4-month thing. I kind of want the summer off. I don't want to do another year long, and maybe that's too much. And so I'm looking forward to not having a class for the next couple months, and I'll plan on doing a lot of meditation in the ocean with my children and, you know, be practicing right where I am. Of course, I'm going to continue to do Mondays and Wednesdays for refuge, but have a little bit of a light summer. And then in the fall, I'd like to do another 3 or 4 month course. I'm not sure exactly how I'll structure it. My intention is to do it on Ajahn Amaro's teachings. And Ajahn Amaro is the current kind of, he's the current abbot of the, you know, Ajahn Chah Thai forest lineage. You know, the whole thing's a hierarchy, and it was Ajahn Chah at the top, and then it was Ajahn Sumedho at the top, and then Ajahn Sumedho retired, and Ajahn Amaro is now in that position of the kind of whatever abbot, which is the highest position in the lineage. The international kind of, every monastery has an abbot, and then there's the abbot that is over all of them. I think they have dozens, maybe 20, 30, I don't know how many monasteries they have, but lots. So Ajahn Amaro, as most of you are aware, has been my personal teacher for almost 30 years, maybe 28 years ago, something like that. I met Ajahn Amaro and have stayed connected with him, and he's my kind of direct connection to the Ajahn Chah lineage, as well as Cornfield. Cornfield as an ex-monk, you know, householder, and Amaro as a monk who has stayed a monk. So I'm going to choose one of his books. I already asked the monastery if they'll send me this book called The Breakthrough, which is a somewhat, you know, maybe 5-year-old book. So, or it's actually fairly new, I think, but it's transcripts from a 10-day retreat that Amaro taught a few years ago, and it's about breaking, you know, using vipassana, using mindfulness to kind of go deeper into the insights that we're all seeking. So I think we're going to use this Breakthrough book if they'll send me 40 copies. You guys, you know, we could do it where people will also, you can download it as a PDF. And if you want to jump into it, feel free, but I'm going to do it as a course in the spring, probably start in September. Give us a couple months, July, August off, and then start something in September. So I'll put the registration up for that. If you have feedback for me about this structure of meeting once a month for 3 hours and then doing a 30-minute thing, I'm open to feedback. I heard from a couple of people that they liked this. I heard from a couple of people that maybe meeting twice a month to kind of have more consistency. 2 30-minute meetings might be nice. The reality is, like, a good chunk of the people didn't even make the appointments to do the one-on-ones because it is, it is a bit optional. Not everybody did it. So not everybody likes the personal guidance. My feeling is that it's quite good for us to have one-on-one sessions with teachers and to have some accountability and some guidance, and it doesn't have to be so focused on the material as much as just making that relationship with me, if you want to make that relationship with me. So the opportunity to do that, I've benefited a lot from those times where I was actually able to talk to my teachers and not just listen to them. So I think it's useful. And I think that's it. I'll put in a big encouragement to retreat practice as part of our development. Some of you heard me give the talk the other night about finding balance and about how, the Buddha's balance in some way, and Ajahn Chah, these guys do a 3-month retreat every year. They spend a quarter of their life, in retreat. And we're probably not going to be able to do that because of our capitalist system and our responsibilities as parents and whatnot to actually take that much time for a retreat. But so we do it in our own modified way of how much time can we get away from the marketplace and, the world and into, our own spiritual investigation. So deep encouragement to do some retreats. And I said in that talk, and I'll say again here, that my sense is that if you can and feel moved to and feel super committed to this path, at some point in your life, get on a 3-month retreat. Like make that part of your goal, and maybe it's when your children are older and you have the ability to do that. Or maybe it's now before you have children, or there's a situation where you could get away to do that, or you don't have children and you could actually set up a situation where you could go and do a longer, practice period. And so maybe that's 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, but I like the 90-day goal as part of that lineage of Rain's retreat. So consider that, and you could do that at a meditation center. Also, most of the monasteries, you could go and be like you could serve for the 90-day retreat. Like you could go to Amaravati or Abhayagiri and say, hey, I want to live here and I want to support the monks and nuns for the 90-day retreat, where you would cook and you would serve and you would have some activity, but you would also mostly be in silence and get to attend all of the teachings and be with the monastics in the retreat. That's also an interesting way to do some retreat time that's a little bit more engaged. So anyways, just throwing that out there as an encouragement. Something that I'm glad that I did before I have children and have the desire to do again, and know that it probably won't happen until my children are older, but with the intention to also do some more long retreat time when my life allows that. So in the meantime, we have our engaged community here, and Against the Stream is open. You're welcome to come and meditate in person here if you're local, and we'll continue to Zoom with the guys. And I'm going to try to figure out a camera so that there's a way, especially when there's interactions, and I don't have to flip the computer around today. I might even do a screen or something that we can put up somehow so that people in the room and people at home get an experience of being together, so that it's not like these two separate. I'm working on it. I'm thinking on it and working on it. You paid for this. Thank you for supporting Against the Stream. Many of you gave me Donna for the one-on-ones. Thank you for doing that. Of course, if you feel moved to make a donation to Against the Stream, that is always welcomed. And many of you are monthly supporters. If you're not a monthly supporter and you feel inspired to become a monthly supporter of Against the Stream, that would be greatly appreciated. Please consider becoming a monthly donor. That's one of the ways that we'll get to the place where the rent is fully covered and I'm not paying for it out of my own pocket. So thank you for considering that. And I think that's it. Adam.
The book that you're talking about through connection, is it just from the monastery in a PDF, or can you get it from a publisher?
You can't get it from a publisher. It's just from, you can't. It's just from the monastery, only for free distribution. So you can either get the PDF or if you, I wrote to the monastery and said, I want to do a course on it. We send me 40 copies. I haven't heard back from them yet. But if you just write to them individually and request a copy, they'll send you a copy. Okay. Like they'll definitely will send me some copies. I'm just not sure if they have a box to send me. No, it's one of the, and it's what a lot of the, I don't know if everybody heard, but he's saying this book, a lot of the monastics books are never, like this is one of the only Ajahn Chah books. There's not very many that were actually published by a for-profit publisher. Mostly the monastery does their own publishing and the books are for free distribution. You're not allowed to sell them. And that's just the way it is. Yeah, it's part of that kind of, you can't charge for the Dhamma. Once in a while they make exceptions and let things get published, but mostly they keep it to self-publishing. Okay, may any goodness that comes from our practice be shared outward in all directions. May each one of us wake up as much as possible, free ourselves from these karmic entanglements of the gravitational pull. And together may we create a positive change on this fucked up planet. Good to see everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Good journey.
Bye.
Rachel, thank you.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Rachel. Bye, Ward. Bye, Noah.
Yeah.
Happy
Bye,
birthday,
Warren.
Jeff. Happy
Bye,
birthday.
Rim.
Oh, thanks, Betsy.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Laters.
Yeah, we could, if we could get a screen that they were on, of like a big, that kind of swung out, like it was on that wall and swung out somehow.
Most,
and then a good camera.
But, yeah, there's a way to hook this up where you just like have a cord that would just go into that firewire thing or whatever. And
Or
just,
even like the screen share thing, right?
yeah, you could do like some kind of wireless thing. Yeah.
But maybe a cord would be better.
I don't know. Yeah, but you could have it on an arm so it could like,
Swing out there.
that too. That'd be cool. The camera. I'll talk to my brother about the camera thing.
Just a high quality,
Yeah.
affordable-ish
Yeah.
digital camera for streaming live.
The thing is that the mic gets tricky,
Well, I won't be using the mic. I'll still be, all of the, what I'm doing is I've got this, did I show you the restream?
See you guys. I'll see you.
Great to see you.
Not
birthday.
tomorrow, but next Monday. Thank you
Can't
so
believe
much.
you're 65. Like you're talking about getting older. Like you're the same age as my mom.